It's the most wonderful time of the year, for silver coins that is, as we embark on the new lunar year. What does legend tell us about this year, and what silver lunar coins should you consider? Find out today on the Culture of Currency. The Lunar New Year is something that always brings in great new designs in the silver coin market. Just take a look at some of these fantastic images of lunar coins that you can get your hands on. There are all kinds of things to consider when selecting a lunar coin. Maybe you want to chase a series and try to complete a lunar cycle. Maybe you're a little bit like me and you just want to buy your favorite lunar coin that's minted every year. Whatever your motivations, try to define it so that it can be a process that repeats itself every year. If you don't have intention, is it worth doing? The Royal Australian Minced Rabbit is a great one to pick up to follow a fantastic series. If you like to spend a little more for something lower mintage, maybe look at the Canadian Lunar Rabbit. As for me, I like a low mintage and a beautiful design, but I also love to try and incorporate new nations in my collection, which brings me to the nation of Bhutan. This is a series that I have looked at from the start of my collecting journey. This series features a more traditional depiction of artwork and hosts an amazing obverse. This year's coin is the first in the entire series of Bhutan's lunar cycle to have a capped mintage, and it has a great story to tell. More on that in a moment. First, we need to talk about the expectations of tradition of the Year of the Rabbit. If you've seen my Lunar Rat video, you'll be familiar with the legend that gives us this lunar series. If not, I encourage you to watch it as it basically lays out the legend in great detail. I will give you a Cliff Note version today. Basically, the Jade Emperor wanted 12 animals to be his guards, and the sooner each animal passed through the Heavenly Gate, the higher they would be ranked. It was a race of sorts. The first wave of winners included the diligent ox and quick-witted rat. There was a big river right before the finish line, and the ox, being a great swimmer, said no biggie, as he is the strongest swimmer, and started in the water. The rat, seeing how easy the ox made this look, jumped on the ox's back, and was ferried across the river. The rat jumped off the ox's nose and made it across the finish line, beating the ox and others. The ox came next, followed by the strong and competitive tiger, who used its strengths to best the water. The rabbit was next, using speed and cunning to patiently navigate rocks and debris to clear the water with little resistance. This year will be the lunar year of the rabbit, and we should look to certain character traits of this animal to be present in people born under this year. So Matt Thompson, who is expecting a child this year, you should expect these traits, as this is absolutely a science. The symbolic cultural meaning of the rabbit are closely related to its living habits, including vigilance, wittiness, cautiousness, deftness, self-protection, and the moon. The rabbit often notices the slightest of changes to its surrounding and knows when to blend in and when to dart. We should also note that there are alchemaic versions of the animal that give even more information based on the time of the lunar year. I, an example, am born under the year of the tiger, and when I am born matches up with fire, so I'm a fire tiger. Let's get into the lunar rabbit that I chose and place it on our 60-point scale. When we look at the front of this coin, we're actually met with the inspiration in the lunar rabbit. The NU200 means 1 ounce, and the border is quite festive and traditional, as is our feature in this rabbit. We see a rabbit in beautiful depiction with floral ornamentation. This is an ancient style of art, as it invokes traditional Asian paper cutting, which is an amazing thing, as I hold more than a coin but a representation of an ancient craft. Paper cut art is traditionally used in the lunar year as a celebration, so as you can see, not only did I get a new country to be represented in my collection, I hold a piece of traditional paper cut style art represented in coin form. This is so much more than a coin and brings beauty to my collection. I love the obverse and think it lands a perfect 10. Now for the reverse. First off, the flag of Bhutan is amazing. It looks like this. It looks like it could have flown 2,000 years ago and is unchanged today. We have, on the reverse, the emblem of Bhutan. Let me kind of detail what it is you're looking at. This national emblem, contained in a circle, is composed of a double diamond thunderbolt, or dorje, placed above a lotus, surmounted by a jewel and framed by 2 dragons. I assume these are the infamous thunder dragons that Bhutan is named after. This is an excellent reverse and speaks to the traditional nature of this fascinating land. There's a balance in the geometric layout and steeped in culture and tradition. It scores a 10. Now we fall to mintage. As stated before, the Kingdom of Bhutan decided to cap the mintage of this coin for the first time. The number chosen was 50,000, which scores an 8 out of 10. This is a fairly low mintage and should be known that this coin in fact is minted by the nation of Singapore for Bhutan. Now we have in my mind the coolest part of this coin, which is the cultural significance. What a story this nation has. Let's talk about Bhutan. This is a nation roughly the size of Maryland and named after the Thunder Dragon. Bhutan was named this due to its geographic location providing extreme storms at times. This is one of the most traditional nations I have ever seen. Even though it borders 2 of the most populous countries in China and India, Bhutan has never been colonized, so there's never been a large disruption in cultural tradition. This land is the last Buddhist kingdom on earth, and thus said, they actually measure the wealth of the nation in GNH, not GDP. GNH stands for Gross National Happiness. They find the wealth of the nation is in emotion and not in a Western view of, let's say, gold or silver. This land is so traditional, in fact, that roads, electricity, and cars weren't even in the nation until the 1960s. So if you want to visit a land and see what traditional Asian culture looks like, Bhutan should be on your list, but it will cost you. In order to keep the tradition alive, the government requires you have a guide in the nation to show you all of the tradition and explain that process, and you have to pay a daily rate to the government per person while you're there. This being said, tourism is actually only around 70,000 visitors a year. Heck of a nation, and due to its traditional history and proximity to China, we have a perfect score for cultural significance, as this is one of the places where the traditional Lunar Year Festival still takes place, and in fact, it is the most important holiday of the year in Bhutan. This being said, it's gotta be a 10, right? Our next area to cover is collectability. We have one of the most collectible themes in silver coins being the Lunar series. This is not one of the big series that is considered the kings of lunars, like let's say the Perth Mint, Royal Australian Mint, or even the Rwanda series, but rather one that is often overlooked. Now that there is a mintage cap, I will assume more concentration will come over the years. This being said, I think currently it lands a 7, but it very well could rise over time. Our last area is uniqueness. Lunar series are not unique unless you provide something that makes them stand out. Many of the lunars on the market follow a more classical approach in design, showcasing realistic representation of the animals. This series follows a traditional Asian paper cutting art which is derived from lunar celebrations. Not only is this accurate, but it also is less seen. We have a mintage that is fairly low, and we will not see this coin for another 12 years. The focus of one side of this coin is one of the only ones on the market not to feature a British monarch, which provides even more uniqueness. So I think it scores a 9. Now for my final thoughts. We have a coin here that crosses the line at an elite score of 54. I've grown to love this coin and series by researching and learning all of the information that we've gone over. So much so that when the cycle repeats and we have a fresh lunar cycle, I think this may be the one I choose to complete a full series. The biggest reason would be that this is the most important imagery to Bhutan, whereas most other nations who mint this coin do it because it sells or it has a less significant role in the population. I also love that the artwork is traditional paper cut style. I think the value of the importance these images hold to Bhutan make me want this to be my series to try to complete. I would love to know your thoughts on my assessment as well as your favorite lunar series currently on the market. Thank you for watching, and please remember to always stay classy and current with the culture of currency.